Welcome back. It's Mr. Treewan, and we're looking at part 2 of this little video, these videos on special pairs of angles. So far we've covered complementary, which was two angles that added up to 90 degrees, but they weren't necessarily having to be next to each other or what they call adjacent. It's just two angles that add up to 90 degrees we call complementary. I didn't specify that in the first video, and all the examples I showed you happen to be what we call adjacent, meaning they shared a side, they were right next to each other. So in this problem, or in this video, we're going to look at something called supplementary. And supplementary is two angles whose measure is 180 degrees. Now again, like I did not specify very clearly in the first video, supplementary does not show us that the two angles will be next to each other per se. It just means that their angle measured together is 180. There is a situation in which two angles, when they share a side, we call that a linear pair. And that means that those two angles are right next to each other. They are sharing a side and they make a straight line, so they're called a linear pair. That's where the linear comes from, the fact that when you put them together like that, they're like two pieces of a puzzle and they make a line when you build them up next to each other. Okay, so our first example here, I'm asking you to find a measure of ZXY. So I'm going to model what we called angle addition in the last video, and I'm going to go ahead and write this out as angle addition. So when I look at this, I see that I have ray XY and ray XW, and they are opposite rays, and we have made a straight line, which means that we have made something called a linear pair, which is supplementary, meaning it adds up to 180. So I'm going to write that out. So I know, for example, that angle ZXW plus angle ZXY has to equal 180 degrees. Together, those two have to make 180 degrees. And so, if I substitute in some values, I know that ZXW, for example, is 50 degrees. And that means ZXY and 50 degrees, when you add them together, you get 180. Well, if you subtract 50 from both sides, you find out that this is equal to, the measure is 130 degrees. So the measurement of ZXY is equal to 130, because together they have to make 180 degrees because they are supplementary. And in this case, they're a linear pair because this angle is right next to this one and they share this side. All right, solve the next one. This one's kind of an algebra problem, just like in our last video, where I give you some expressions and then we have to use those expressions, maybe use a little bit of angle addition and see if we can't solve for x. And if we solve for x, we can substitute that value in here and find those angles. So let's write this up. What we know about this is that angle ABC plus angle ACD has to equal 180. They've come together to make a straight line. So if I substitute in some values, I have 4x minus 1, and I have 6x plus 11 equals 180. Start combining my like terms. I got 4x's and 6x's, that's 10x's. And negative 1 and 11 makes 10. Running out of room over here, so I'm going to write over here on the side, 10x plus 10 equals 180. Well, let's minus the 10. 10x equals 170. Oops, it's not a very good looking equal sign. X, if I divide by 10, comes out to be 17. Well, now let's go and plug that in. Let's figure out what those numbers are. So let's get out our calculator and let's start figuring them out. So 4 times 17. All right, well, 4 times 17 is 68. And if I take away 1, so I'm going to plug that in. 4 times 17, take away 1, that's 4 times 17, 68, minus 1, giving me 67 degrees. Now, I can plug this into the second one as well, but I don't really remember what 6 times 17 is, so until I get a calculator to figure it out, maybe I'll just use the fact that I know that this angle is 67 degrees, and what do the two of them have to do when you put them together? Because they're supplementary, I can kind of cheat here and just say, well, if one is 67, then the other one must be 180 minus 67. And what do I got there? I got 113. And if I put them together, let's see, does 113 plus 67 equal 180? Yes, it does. I was even able to kind of cheat my way out of not doing that 6 times 17 because I honestly don't remember what 6 times 17 is, and I don't have a calculator with me. But I do know what linear pair means, and I do know what supplementary means, so I can just kind of get right around that by the fact that 67 and 113 make 180. So just want to kind of reiterate something and be lazy at the same time, but I want to show you that knowing one can always get you the other one. All right, our last question. The supplement of an angle is 5 times the angle. Well, we covered this in our last video. I don't know what the angle is, but I do know that I'm talking about supplementary, which means 2 items, and what do those 2 items have to do? Make 180. So let's figure this out. I have the first angle, I have no idea what it is, so I'll call that angle X. I know that its supplement is 5 times that, so we'll call the one X and we'll just call the other one 5X. And since they have the word supplementary or supplement, I know that they make 180 degrees. 1X plus 5X is 6X equals 180 degrees. X is equal to 30. All right, well now I know what the small angle is. One of the angles, the smaller angle, is 30. And we now know that its supplement, which is 5 times that, is going to be 5 times 30, which is 5 times 30 gives me 150. And I know this is correct because 30 and 150 make 180. So that is our answers. It's going to be 30 and 150. All right, I hope this works out for you. I hope this sums up the whole difference between complementary, supplementary, and I also hope that I highlighted what a linear pair is. We'll talk about that one a little more. Almost every time we look at supplementary angles, almost every single time they're going to be a linear pair. But just in case I want to cover later on, I'll show you the difference of when they're not a linear pair. All right, hope this helps. Bye.